let's talk guitar tone, modern fusion guitar tone. Most specifically, I know people are here to see about the Holdsworth tone, or what makes up the Holdsworth tone. This won't make you sound like Allan. This will allow you to dial in more into what your sound is, what you hear with your ear, what rings with you, and hopefully a more sustained and inspiring tone. So I'm going to show you step by step the methodology and devices you use, or you will use, or try to use to get the tone that you like. Now, what I end up with, or what I do here, is not magnificent, and the audio probably isn't wonderful. But if you follow these steps and you listen at each point and adjust things to your ear, at each step you want it to sound the best it can at that point. By the time you get to the end and you add in the delays, I guarantee you'll have a good modern fusion tone. The guitar. First off, everybody's going to hate me saying this, but you can get this tone with just about any guitar. I've done it with the Telecaster because it's the way you shape the tone that works, combined with your own sound and how you hear that and how you naturally dial that in. So here's some things that I think matter. One is your volume and tone knobs on your guitar. I never ever put my volume all the way to 10. I keep it at about 7, and I keep the tone at about 5. Now the reason for this is, in the chain of events in creating gain, you never want to overpower any one area. So this gives you a nice middle ground to start with, so that you can dial it a little more and just tinker with the fine tuning of it later on. But this is a great place to start, and I always tell people to start at this place. Alright, so first you're going straight into your amp, and got it set to the settings I give everybody when they ask me about this, which is your gain somewhere between 5 and 7 or so, your master or your post output probably between 7 and 10. Just depends upon your emulation, I suppose. Treble relatively low, 9 to 10 o'clock. Your mid or mids at around 2 o'clock. Your bass all the way off, and very little presence, probably about 1. That's going to be your high air stuff. Here's my guitar with the volume at 7 and the tone probably a little less than 5. That's just the amp, no pre-gain or anything. So the next thing, it's actually the first part of the chain, is a boost section before you get to the amp. I've used either the TC Electronic sustain pedal or the Boss SD1 overdrive. So here's the sustain pedal first before the amp sound that I'm using. Definitely adds some sustain. And here's the Boss pedal. Again, you're just looking for a clean boost. In fact, on the Boss there, I use mostly level and almost zero drive. You don't want to distort the signal in any way, or color it in any way. You're just giving a stronger signal to your amp, basically. So the next section is out of your effects send, or the next thing in your chain in your DSP is going to be a compressor. I use this mainly for leveling of the actual volume, not the compression portion of it. So you're just going to do 1 to 3 dB, which you shouldn't necessarily be able to hear, but you're gonna just take the very top off, so it all sounds just a hair more even. So here it is without it, and then you probably can't even hear the difference. I also add a little bit of not gain, but I boost the signal a little bit there going into the next component. So the next and most important the shaping of your tone, the point where you take it from a noise you made into a sound that you like. So use a parametric EQ, and you're just going to pull out little sections. You're going to pull out all the very high end. You don't need anything above 10,000 hertz. And on the bottom, your guitar doesn't create any frequencies below 82, or it shouldn't. Everything below 80 hertz, I get rid of that too. So the meat of your signal is there in the middle, from about 400 or 500 hertz all the way up to 4,500 hertz. Using this curve that I show, you're going to make a dip there around 4.8K or so. The curve ends up looking like a VW bug or something, but trust me, if you use your DSP to start out at this point, this is the shape that you will hear, if that makes any sense. So here it is without the EQ. Again, you're saying, oh man, this tone's still not great, Mike. Okay, but there it is. You got sustain, you don't have the real high. So that's where you really shape the tone. This is, can't stress it enough, the most important section of creating a good sounding tone to me. Okay, the last component is delay. So delay is used to create chorus effects or doubling effects, and you've got longer delays. I'll include the delay times or delay settings that I generally start with, but you're going to have two that are shorter, say between 5 milliseconds and 30 milliseconds, anywhere between there really. Whatever sounds good. Create a chorus type of effect or a doubling effect, a thickening effect. And then the real part of that sustain, of that sound of the elongated notes, comes from the longer delays, say 300, 400 milliseconds or something like that. You're gonna have 4 of those panned left and right. The idea behind that is to have the first tap to be a little bit lower than the original note, so that if you were holding the note, sustaining it, it would pick up without you noticing that there was a tap. And then you're gonna do that with the next tap and the next tap, going down a little bit in volume and of course a longer delay in milliseconds. What that ends up doing is making it sound like the note lasts longer than it really does. Here's the sound without the delay. And then here's the delays. It just elongates everything. It makes that note slide nicer into the next note, and it just adds a continuity, a flow. So you don't want to hear each individual tap. You can kind of hear it there. But if you hold it and then let go, you can hear it decay. Now, something about delay versus reverb. Now, Allan told me this directly. He loves delay because it creates space. He hates reverb because all reverb does is push things further away. And the last thing you want to do with your lead tone is to not have it be up front. So with the delays, you're going to have your direct sound, your sound without the delays, all the way at the top. Say, turn that to 10. And your delays will start at, say, 9.6 or 9.5. Not too far behind that, but you want to make sure that the note you ring when you first strike it is the one that rings most clearly. You want that note, the main note, to be clean. So let's go through each step. This is just the sound that I've dialed up on the amp. Okay, here's the TC sustain added before that. And here's the compressor added after that. Should say on the effects loop, first part of the effects loop. Here's the EQ after the compressor. Again, decent tone, but you don't have any space. So here's the delay. So beyond all the sonic stuff that I covered, this is the best, by far, analysis I've ever seen of Allan Holdsworth in too many years of looking for things like that. I'm going to mispronounce his name, but this is Allan Holdsworth, Method to the Madness by Timothy Padone. I got it just recently and I'm blown away. So if you want to know more about his lines, how to create his lines, is more like it, this is without a doubt the thing to get. So now you've seen the steps that you go through and you think, oh well, Mike, your tone wasn't that good either right there. But the point is the process that you go through. And at each point you get the sound, to sound the best it can right at that point. And this still takes time, takes a lot of time, especially with the EQ section. But I'm going to demonstrate something about the EQ section that kind of proves my point. So here's all the same settings that I have on the sound clips, except this is on the GoPro, so I'm sure it sounds different. But I'm going to demonstrate what the EQ does for you. So the EQ on the parametric EQ, making that curve that looks like the VW. Here's the regular tone that I had showed on there. All right, now let's just turn a bunch of stuff up because we think there's not enough. So I'll turn those all the way to 10. I'll go up to 5 on the treble, and let's even add some presence. You can see that it still fits in those parameters of the parametric EQ, but it allows you to, you know, gain it up more, or not gain it up, but sweeten it up in the spots that you really want to do. So you can see if you tinker with that long enough, you're going to have a great tone. So that's the end of Tone Up. Hopefully you learned something. I know I did. I'd love to field your questions. You can get a hold of me on Instagram at AreYouSerious, or this might wind up on YouTube, which is also Are You Serious? ARYUSERIUS. Thanks for watching.